All right, Shalom, Shalom. Call hello Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakahak Radash. Shalom and salutations and double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, who I continue to learn 100% truth from. Habashin Yashab Rakatham. Shalom also to the elder bishops of Great Millstone and the elders, the prophets, the teachers, and evangelists of Great Millstone, who I continue to learn this 100% truth from. Habashin Yashab Rakatham. Shalom also to the speckled bird, the confused face, the Akim and Akwa, the Akim on the highways and byways, and last but not least, the elect. Back again with another video. Pray that you be edified with it. And I'm just going to entitle it, What's Going On?
Oh my God, Jesus, that's huge. Oh my God. מה זה הישן שם בנמל תל אביב? וואי וואי. אלוהים תחתוני! אלוהים! מה קרה? כל הנמל התפוצץ! תסגרי את החלון, אני לא מאמין.
Please, stop this. We've already lost. You won. Please, just stop. Leave me alone. Israel is the only country we have.
הכל נפל. איך ממשיכים מזה? כל הזיכרונות שלנו כאן. ריבונו של עולם, למה? זה היה הבית של ילדיי. איך נבנה שוב?
So this is what's going on out here, man. If you're not paying attention, then you need to get your mind in the right and the right understanding of what's going on, because this is what's going on.
Oh my God, Jesus, that's huge. Oh my God. מה זה הישן שם בנמל תל אביב? וואי וואי. אלוהים תחתוני!
Salakia.
אלוהים! מה קרה? כל הנמל התפוצץ!
This is an ABC News special report.
Good morning, I'm Michelle Franzen in New York. We are coming on the air with breaking news from the Middle East. Air raid sirens in Israel after Israel's defense minister announced Israel had launched what it called a preemptive strike against Iran, telling Israelis to brace for a likely drone and missile attack and declaring a state of emergency across Israel. Let's go straight to our chief foreign correspondent, Ian Pannell in Tel Aviv. Ian.
We now understand that actually this was a joint action by Israel and the United States, saying that they had launched this attack. They're described as not small scale, and that's according to a U.S. official. President Trump on Truth Social just now posting a video explaining why this is happening, saying that the United States was in imminent danger from Iran, talking about Iran's nuclear program, talking about actions that have been attributed either to Iran or to the proxy groups that it has supported throughout this region, trying to build a justification for this conflict. Now, just taking him at face value, that would imply this isn't a short, limited operation aimed to achieve a single objective. This seems to be a much broader operation, possibly leading to regime change, a very hard thing to achieve, certainly from the sky, but it doesn't look like it will be something that will be quick. It certainly won't be easy, and there'll be a question about whether or not it will achieve its objectives.
Ian in Tel Aviv, thank you very much. We want to go to Selena Wang, who is on the telephone from us in D.C. Selena, give us an idea. We are hearing from President Trump for the first time since strikes were launched against Iran, from both what we're learning now, a joint operation between Israel and the U.S.
That's right, Michelle. Just moments ago, the president made a post on social media. It was a video. He announced that a short time ago, the U.S. began major combat operations in Iran. As you heard Ian mention there, the president said the objective is to defend American people, to eliminate imminent threats from the Iranian regime, calling the regime a, quote, vicious group of people, going on to say that its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. Now, this comes as the region has been on edge for weeks. The president, we have heard him over the last few weeks repeatedly threaten military strikes against Iran if its leaders did not agree to its demands, including reining in its nuclear program. At the same time, we have seen the U.S. build up this massive force in the region as we were waiting for potential action from the president. Now, we also know that these diplomatic talks have been ongoing, but as of last night, the president expressed his dissatisfaction with the state of negotiations, saying that they need to make a deal and they don't want to go far enough. But the president, throughout the last few weeks, has been stressing that he wants to see diplomacy here. Just yesterday, he said they hadn't made a final decision, but he wasn't happy with the state of negotiations. But again, this also comes as, we have been waiting for the president to explain clearly to the American people about what his ultimate objective is. Is this about the nuclear deal? Is this about the ballistic missile program? Is this about regime change?
Selena Wang joining us from D.C. Thank you very much. And we want to go to Martha Raddatz, and who can explain. She has covered the region for years in that region. Martha, tell us the latest of what you're learning.
Well, what we know now, this joint strike between the Israelis and the U.S. is that U.S. strikes involve a mix of U.S.
So, Lockie, you got to keep your mind on prophecy, man. You know what I'm saying? Because this is what we're dealing with every day now. I mean, we deal with prophecy, every day. But I mean, like, these prophecies are coming off the page every day. There's so much going on, like Elder Apostle Tahar would say. You miss an hour, you miss a lot. You know what I mean? Because there's so much going on. This is Sirach 39:1. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecy. Because this is what we're dealing with every day. Prophecy, prophecy, prophecy. This is what we're speaking about. Yeah, I mean, we go into history and things like that as well. But, it's really all about the prophecies and the elect.
Aircraft and Tomahawk cruise missiles fired by U.S. Navy ships in the region. So this is a large-scale attack. It does not appear to be this limited strike, one of those options that President Trump was given, and that option involved making a preemptive strike to bring the Iranians to the table and be on the side of what the U.S. wanted. But clearly those negotiations have really already broken down. I'm certain that the Iranians expected this. They knew those negotiations had essentially broken down. They knew from President Trump's public statements that he was not happy with where the negotiations were going. So this does, as Ian said, appear to be a larger scale strike that will probably last several days, if not weeks. There is one statement that the president made on that Truth Social video, and it was an angry posting, said, "We aren't going to take this anymore." The president said, and it's an extraordinary statement, "The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war, but we're doing this not for now, but we're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission." This is the first time we have heard the president say anything about this to the American people, to give this kind of warning to the American people. He has simply said that the U.S. will not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon, but he has not prepared the U.S. public or Congress for what may happen here. Again, the statement, "The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war," said the president, "but we're doing this not for now, but we're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission." Again, a reminder that just this week in the State of the Union, the president had had said that the nuclear program was obliterated in the U.S. strikes last June. That is clearly not what the U.S. believes anymore. They believe that the Iranians are capable of building a nuclear weapon, and they are trying to stop that from happening. A reminder also that this...
It's crazy because here, Esau's the devil that gotta go, man. I mean, this man is, he's really doing his job, and he has destroyed the world. And it's time for him to get the hell up out of here, man. Here, you don't want nobody else to have the same type of artillery you have, and every day you lie to us about. And you notice the devil because he'll lie and say, well, they did this to me, so we annihilated them. Or you just make up lies to justify your wickedness, This is Sirach 6:37. Let thy mind be upon the ordinances of the Lord, and meditate continually in his commandments. He shall establish thy heart, and give thee wisdom at thy own desire. And what's the wisdom that we get? Man, we are blessed to have an understanding of what's going on. We are blessed to understand these prophecies and what's going on in Western Asia. You know what I'm saying?
Was a president who came into office as America first. He did not want to involve the U.S. in wars, but so far these are the third strikes that the president has made since just being in office.
And Martha, Iran has definitely also talked about how it would respond if there were any strikes that were made again. We want to go to ABC News analyst and retired Colonel Steve Ganyard. Steve, with Israel making that first strike and along with the U.S. now entering what it calls that U.S. joint strike, and with the president's sobering message about U.S. troops, what does that signal to you in terms of the military buildup there, of how long this could last?
Yeah, Michelle, if you remember in Midnight Hammer, the previous attack on Iran, it was actually fairly low.
Objective is to defend American people, to eliminate imminent threats from 2 days ago. The Iranian regime, calling the regime a, quote, vicious group of people, going on to say that it's 2 days ago, it had a menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. Now, this comes as the region has been on edge for weeks. The president, we have heard him over the last few weeks repeatedly threaten military strikes against Iran if its leaders did not agree to its demands, including reining in its nuclear program. At the same time, we have seen the U.S. build up this massive force in the region as we were waiting for potential action from the president. Now, we also know that these diplomatic talks have been ongoing, but as of last night, the president expressed his dissatisfaction with the state of negotiations, saying that they need to make a deal and they don't want to go far enough. But the president, throughout the last few weeks, has been stressing that he wants to see diplomacy here. Just yesterday, he said they hadn't made a final decision, but he wasn't happy with the state of negotiations. But again, this also comes as, we have been waiting for the president to explain clearly to the American people about what his ultimate objective is. Is this about the nuclear deal? Is this about the ballistic missile program? Is this about regime change?
Selena Wang joining us from D.C. Thank you very much. And we want to go to Martha Raddatz, and who can explain. She has covered the region for years in that region. Martha, tell us the latest of what you're learning.
Well, what we know now, this joint strike between the Israelis and the U.S. is that U.S. strikes involve a mix of U.S. aircraft and Tomahawk cruise missiles fired by U.S. Navy ships in the region. So this is a large-scale attack. It does not appear to be this limited strike, one of those options that President Trump was given, and that option involved making a preemptive strike to bring the Iranians to the table and be on the side of what the U.S. wanted. But clearly those negotiations have really already broken down. I'm certain that the Iranians expected this. They knew those negotiations had essentially broken down. They knew from President Trump's public statements that he was not happy with where the negotiations were going. So this does, as Ian said, appear to be a larger scale scale strike that will probably last several days, if not weeks. There is one statement that the president made on that Truth Social video, and it was an angry posting, said, "We aren't going to take this anymore." The president said, and it's an extraordinary statement, "The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost and we may have casualties. That often happens in war, but we're doing this not for now."
Ain't no may. We are going to have casualties. They make it seem like it's just 3 United States soldiers who died, fighting. But, I mean, come on now. Babylon ain't that great. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure there's more, and they just under-exaggerating.
But we're doing this for the future, and it is a noble...
Here's a scripture. This is 2nd Ezra 6:20. "And when the world that he began," because I don't know if y'all seen that blood moon that's out there, but it's out there. It looks beautiful. "And when the world that he began to vanish away shall be finished, then will I show these tokens. The books shall be opened before the firmament, and they shall see all together."
Mission. This is the first time we have heard the president.
So everything that's going to happen, everything that is happening is going to be public. There ain't going to be no hidden nothing.
Didn't say anything about this to the American people, to give this kind of warning to the American people. He has simply said that the U.S. will not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon, but he has not prepared the U.S. public or Congress for what may happen here. Again, the statement, "The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost and we may have casualties. That often happens in war," said the president, "but we're doing this not for now, but we're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission." Again, a reminder that just this week in the State of the Union, the president had said that the nuclear program was obliterated in the U.S. strikes last June. That is clearly not what the U.S. believes anymore. They believe that the Iranians are capable of building a nuclear weapon, and they are trying to stop that from happening. A reminder also that this was a president who came into office as America first. He did not want to involve the U.S. in wars, but so far these are the third strikes that the president has made since just being in office.
And Martha, Iran has definitely also talked about how it would respond if there were any strikes that were made again. We want to go to ABC News analyst and retired Colonel Steve Ganyard. Steve, with Israel making that first strike and along with the U.S. now entering that, what it calls that U.S. joint strike, and with the president's sobering message about U.S. troops, what does that signal to you in terms of the military buildup there, of how long this could last?
Yeah, Michelle, if you remember in Midnight Hammer, the previous attack on Iran, it was actually fairly low risk. We put lots of airplanes over Iran to make sure that the B-2s successfully get to their targets, hitting the nuclear sites. Now, this seems to be much more widespread. We're getting preliminary reports of what appears to be decapitation strikes within Tehran, going after the leadership in Tehran, going after not only the theocracy, but the military leadership in Tehran. But there's also many strikes around the country that look like they're targeting missile sites. This has been the real worry about the ability of Iran to go out back and retaliate against Israel and all of the U.S. allies within the Gulf. So the other concern besides nuclear sites and the leadership sites have been the ability for the Iranians to strike our allies and Israel with missile retaliation strikes.
And Steve, as Americans are joining us tonight across the country watching this unfold, we're seeing video from Tehran where Israel and the U.S. have entered into joint strikes targeting sections of Tehran. We don't know exactly what their targets are at this time, but what should Americans take away from this? We have a huge military presence across the region there, some 35,000 spread out.
This is we're getting closer and closer, man. You know, these scriptures are coming out, and these prophecies are coming out, and the world is witnessing, and it's obvious. You can tell that these people, these heathen nations try to come off like they understand what's going on with the scriptures, not realizing that Yahweh Shem Shai is controlling everything. And on top of that, you're playing the way he wants to play you, and this prophecy. So now, the men who are watching and paying attention, they can see what's going on. You know what I mean? It won't be long, man, before they try to make that C-hit mandatory, because again, they know they have a short time, and they realize that they have to move fast in order to get this going, because their time is running really short. So now this is why we're in the rumors of wars situation, along with other prophecies that's about to pass. This is Joel 2:30. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire, and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of Yahweh come. And this is where we at, man. This is where we at. And what do we want? We want deliverance. We want to get up out of here. Excuse me. Luke 4:18. The Spirit of Yahweh is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and the recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised. And this is what is about to get ready. Yahweh Shai is going to come back and get us out of here.
What does this mean for American families here watching? Everyone has a loved one who's in the military or knows somebody who is.
Yeah, the U.S. military has gone to great lengths in the past few days to make sure that any U.S. troops within the region that were vulnerable have been moved out of the region. So most of the aircraft we have there are to defend our allies in Qatar and the UAE and Saudi Arabia. We've flown in lots of anti-aircraft capability to bring down missiles and aircraft that might come in a retaliatory strike. So the U.S. has done a lot to lower their footprint within the region, to take away any potential retaliatory targets that the Iranians may look to take down in the hours and days to come. I think the real point here in what the president was saying is that this is going to be a long-term effort, and this isn't just a pinprick. They're going after missile sites, they're going after nuclear sites. The president did mention naval sites, so down in the Strait of Hormuz, way down in the southern part of Iran, you have a very narrow channel where about 20% of the world's petroleum goes through every day. And so the Iranian Navy has had the ability to close that, which would have repercussions for markets and economies around the world if you took that much oil off the market. So
this is Luke 21:9. But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. So even though these things are happening, we're not when the end is close, but we shouldn't worry about it. If you build your faith up, and that Yahweh Shai is going to come back to come and get you, if you're part of the hopeful elect. You know what I mean?
The U.S. is hitting things that Iran could do to affect the rest of the world, which include nuclear sites, missile sites, the Navy that may be able to close the very strategic waterways that could affect the rest of the global economy. So a very interesting target set, much more in detail and much more widespread than we'd seen in previous strikes.
And Steve, I want to ask you, this is probably the biggest buildup in several decades. How does this compare to the Gulf War buildup?
Yeah, it's smaller just because the U.S. military is smaller since the Gulf War, but almost, Michelle, half of the deployable air assets that the United States have been moved into the region. So a lot of air power in the region. The interesting part about this strike is that most of that air power has not been allowed to launch from bases in the region. So in UAE and Qatar and Saudi Arabia, they've said that you can't launch your aircraft from our bases to go after Iran. So much of what's happening now is coming off the USS. The two aircraft carriers in the region, one's in the Persian Gulf, or south of the Persian Gulf in the Indian Ocean. One is in the Mediterranean. So naval power, lots of cruise missiles. They are launched either from submarines or from destroyers. And so this is, at this point, a lot of standoff missiles. We're seeing some very interesting video of cruise missiles coming across Iraq. So these very low-level flying aircraft or missiles coming across and hitting various targets within Tehran. That's another part of this. This is very quite interesting. It's the first time in memory that the U.S. has conducted a daylight raid in the region. Usually the cover of darkness is used to make sure that the Israelis or wherever it may be, or the Iranians, wherever it may be, cannot see those missiles as they're incoming. So very unusual in many ways. It's also unusual. It's the first time that the U.S. has jointly and publicly said we're conducting strikes with the Israelis in the past.
Yeah. This is Second Esdras 9:1. He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee there before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and rumors and Salaki and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of these things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. And this is the time that we're in. Yahweh Shai is visiting this place, and he's showing us the signs. And the only ones going to get it are the ones that he wants to get it. I'm going to say it like that.
It's always been a coordination, but a quiet coordination. But this is very public. This is a joint U.S.-Israeli effort, and it is targeted at the regime. The president has said, we want to change the regime. Another thought here is, does this mean that people are going to rise up in the streets, or is it just the U.S. and the Israelis are going to take down leadership and hope that the Iranian people overthrow what's left of the regime?
Steve, we know that there's been protests there in the last few months, and of course the regime had cracked down deadly protests. By any accounts, a U.S.-based human rights group says thousands of Iranian demonstrators were killed during that time. I want to ask you again how this compares just in the last year with the June strikes, where the president said that they obliterated some of the nuclear sites in Iran. We're here now, though, and the talks had failed, the 3 rounds of talks between the U.S. and Iranian delegations. How is it different of what the military is doing now with Israel than how it compared with June?
Michelle, I think we need to wait for a little bit more time until we can figure out what the U.S. has actually done. In the previous strike in Midnight Hammer, we flew B-2s over Iran. We flew F-22s, F-35s. There were U.S. aircraft all over Iran and hitting nuclear targets in Iran. So one of the things that we'll look to see today is where else has the U.S. been flying? We know that they're probably, given the number of cities where we're seeing explosions, we know that many more targets have been hit, a wider variety of targets have been hit, to include 6 or 7 different cities. Now, it doesn't mean that the U.S. is hitting the cities. It means that they're hitting, say, missile bases in those cities. So very different, at least in terms of the scale. Previously, in Midnight Hammer, in the previous strikes, the president was very clear. It was going to be one and done, sort of get in, get out. B-2s will hit the nuclear sites. We launched a bunch of cruise missiles. This sounds like it's going to be a weeks-long campaign.
And that's exactly what Martha Raddatz
It's going to be longer than that, man.
had alluded to, too, with what the president is saying. And Steve Ganyard, thank you very much. We do want to take you to Florida, to Mar-a-Lago, and we're going to catch President Trump speaking, and we're going to take him in progress.
People. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign.
Learn the history on why he's been saying death to America since 1953. Look that up.
Campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel.
All right, we're gonna move on. I got one more video. Let's check it out.
2000.
Good evening. As we come on the air tonight, the events unfolding in Iran and the Middle East are moving very quickly. The U.S. now confirming 3 American service members have been killed. They died during an Iranian attack in Kuwait. At least 5 other Americans seriously wounded. A short time ago, President Trump arriving back at the White House. Earlier, his first comments about the American deaths, paying tribute and calling them, quote, true American patriots. The president vowing to avenge their deaths and warning, quote, sadly, there will likely be more before it ends. Right here tonight, we have new reporting on the U.S.-Israeli military operation targeting the supreme leader and Iranian leadership. Sources telling ABC News the CIA had been tracking the Ayatollah for months, right down to his daily routine before the deadly strike was launched. Sources say when intelligence officials learned the supreme leader was above ground in his office and meeting with Iran's top leaders, they struck. Sources say he was killed in the first round of attacks. Tonight, what President Trump is now saying about how long this U.S. military operation could last. Our John Carl talking with President Trump just a short time ago. He says the Iranians have reached out to him. And when John asked the president who will now lead Iran, the president saying the attack was so successful, it knocked out most of the candidates. It's not going to be anybody that we were thinking of because they are all dead. Second or third place is dead. Tonight, across the Middle East, U.S. embassies on high alert, Americans now stranded. And ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell on the scene of one of these deadly Iranian strikes. Their response to this U.S. attack.
Tonight, the first American casualties of the massive U.S.-Israeli war on Iran, as Iran retaliates for the assassination of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. U.S. and Israeli military striking at the heart of the Iranian regime, sending shockwaves across Iran, the Middle East, and beyond. The brazen daylight assault, dubbed Operation Epic Fury, beginning at 9:45 a.m. Saturday in Iran. President Trump releasing this 8-minute pre-recorded message from Mar-a-Lago shortly after, laying out his case for war.
Sure. Second Esdras 15 and 8. I'm gonna start at 8, and it reads, Second Esdras 15 and 8. I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. And therefore, saith Yahweh, thy power, I will surely avenge them and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among thee. And so that draft that they're about to get ready to do too is taking a lot of our young Jake. They don't realize that they're not coming back because they don't understand prophecy, and they're going to have to face Yahweh Shai, and they're going to be annihilated. You know what I'm saying?
Time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people.
Called them vicious, huh?
people.
Waves of explosions rocking Tehran for hours. Screams of horror in the street, cars and buildings in flames. Satellite imagery showing extensive damage to the Supreme Leader's compound. Buildings leveled, smoke billowing from the scene. And tonight, stunning new details on what led up to this massive operation to topple the Iranian regime. A source telling ABC News the CIA had been tracking the Supreme Leader for months, down to his daily routine. An Israeli source briefed on the joint strike telling us Israeli intelligence discovered Khamenei spent quite a lot of time above ground in his offices and not in his bunker. When the US learned the Supreme Leader would be meeting with top Iranian officials in Tehran on Saturday, the source says the timing of the attack was moved up. The US and Israel claiming the 86-year-old Khamenei was killed in the very first round of attacks.
All in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. This wretched and vile man had the blood of hundreds and even thousands of Americans on his hands and was responsible for the slaughter of countless thousands of innocent people all across many countries.
The US alone striking more than 1,000 targets. Navy warships fired Tomahawk cruise missiles. The Pentagon launching new US one-way drones for the first time in combat. B-2 stealth bombers armed with 2,000-pound bombs striking Iran's ballistic missile facilities. The president saying multiple Iranian Navy ships were destroyed, claiming Iran's top military leaders want to surrender.
The entire military command is gone as well, and many of them want to surrender into saving their lives. They want immunity. They're called.
Yeah, he lying. They're gonna be the ones that want. Iran is not. They not submitting to a no ceasefire, but Babylon has. You know what I mean? And they don't care, man. Okay, this is Micah 2:1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When their morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. So like, where you at? It's Daniel 4:17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whosoever he will, and setteth up over it the base of men. And that's what's running and ruling and warring, are the base men. They saw for the controversy of Zion, of Israel. But these devils, they're about to get ready to go, man. We definitely praise y'all about Shinyan Shah for that. They got to go.
Falling by the thousands. Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved. We have very strong objectives.
But so far, no indication from the interim Iranian government. Israel saying the joint operation has knocked out nearly all of Iran's defenses, leading to near total air supremacy over Iran, making it safer for fighter pilots to attack targets in the country. Iran's retaliation, swift and sweeping. At least 9 countries attacked. Israeli air defense intercepting a barrage of Iranian missiles over Tel Aviv. Some still getting through. We were preparing to go on air when another attack came in.
The air raid siren has just gone off once again. It's been going all day. Already we're seeing the signs of what looks like air defense going up into the sky to try and intercept incoming Iranian missiles. All day long, they haven't stopped coming.
Iran also targeting at least 4 US bases in the region. Dramatic verified videos circulating online showing those strikes. From Jordan to this US naval base in Bahrain, where 3,200 Americans are stationed. And after President Trump warned US lives may be lost in this operation, the US confirming 3 American service members were killed in action, 5 more seriously wounded. US officials telling ABC News they were killed in an Iranian attack in Kuwait. The Iran attacks also aimed at civilians. A drone blasting this residential building in Bahrain. Harrowing videos showing the moment that drone came crashing in. People inside taking cover. Iran targeting Dubai too. This luxury hotel up in flames. The airports in Dubai and Kuwait hit. Video online showing smoke filling the terminals. In Qatar, people running for their lives. Our Marcus Moore in Doha.
You can see the air defense interceptors going into the air in those bright flashes of orange, and you can also hear the loud booms. This is what we've been hearing in Doha all day today.
And tonight, Iran saying the death toll's rising. More than 1,000 people killed. Crews searching through the night.
I'm gonna end it right there, man. You know what I mean? Really, I'm not showing you nothing that you should have seen or shouldn't, or you didn't come across by now, you know. I'm going to end it up with this, though. This is Psalm 68:3. But let the righteous be glad, and let them rejoice before the Most High. Yea, let them exceedingly rejoice. Rejoice why? Because these are signs and signals that Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai is coming back to get us up out of here. That's why. So I pray that you were edified with that lesson. And with that, I'm going to say, Call Allah Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Rekak Radash, Shalom again, and salutations and double honors to the elder apostle GMS on down, and Shalom to the elect. Shalom.